Rumble. Rumble's on stream
Rumble.
again.
We're going to get the Rumble in the jungle, although the jungle set's technically in Unleashed. Yep. I'm very excited for this because Rumble is, I think, a deck flying under the radar because it feels like it's 1 or 2 cards away from taking that next step in the competitive tiers. It can absolutely still win games now because, let's be honest, Ferris Forerunner is a heck of a card. And it wins games sometimes on its own, and it just happens to be a mech. But I think the real thing that Rumble has been waiting for is just the other mechs to start pulling their weight. That being said, the Fury and Mind domains have historically been very strong just in Riftbound in general, and sometimes that's enough.
Certainly is. Kai'Sa is certainly a deck that's pretty well represented this weekend, and these are, of course, the same domains as that champion. 2 Falling Star, Singularity, Thousand Tail Watcher, kind of all the things you expect. Really just like a good mid-range deck with a bunch of mechs to supplement Rumble's abilities. So from the Legend Zone, your mechs have shield, +1 on defense, and the chosen champion that is almost always the pick of choice for Rumble players, Rumble Hot-Headed. 4 energy, no power cost, 4 might, already feels pretty good on the stat line, but your mechs also get Assault, including itself. There's also more text, by the way, where you can play mechs from your trash. There's a lot going on this champion unit. But, you know, we already had 1 4 energy, no power champion unit hit the bin, so, you know, it's only a few more sets away until Rumble's saying bye-bye.
Yeah, and the interesting thing with that red Rumble champion is that the mechs that this deck is running, for the most part, are all expensive. So when you're talking about recycling a friendly unit to play something from your trash, those large units are great choices because you're going to want to be replacing your smaller units with the big one anyway.
Well, somebody got what they wanted. For the first time, at least, that I remember seeing on stream, at least in a while, Teemo with Nocturne has been discovered by production. And they're blessing the deck list on your screen right now, Trauma.
I cannot begin to tell you how excited I am for this matchup. I think that this is a deck that can surprise people because the number of ways for you to reveal Nocturne is astronomical. You've got the blue Teemo, which obviously is going to allow you to reveal the 5 cards. You've got the stacked deck. The one thing that does jump out to me that's a little surprising is in the battlefields, there's no Candlelit Sanctum, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the wrong choice. It's just something you very often see there. But Nocturne, being able to play up to 12 might, and specifically at the reaction speed, if you're revealing that blue Teemo when somebody's coming into a battlefield that they think they might need 3 or 4 might to go over and suddenly there's 12 additional, can be catastrophic. I also really love the 3 main deck switcheroos because many of these units just have an inherently small might value, so you're going to maximize your value with this card.
I'm going to remind myself as much as everyone else on stream, let's pull up Guerrilla Warfare. This is Teemo's signature spell. Return up to 2 cards with hidden from your trash to your hand. You can hide ignoring costs this turn. As a reminder, there is only one battlefield that does this, but the Bandle Tree can let you hide an additional card if you want. In fact, you can let both players do it, but Teemo's usually got a few more hidden cards than most.
Absolutely. The thing that Guerrilla Warfare that's worth noting is, one, even if you don't have Bandle Tree, if you have both battlefields, you can still hide for free twice. But even just hiding for free the 1 time is very beneficial. You're already spending the 1 power to play the Warfare, so you're kind of getting a refund on that power anyway, as opposed to either paying the power. Teemo notoriously can also hide cards with the energy cost. Sometimes it's still actually the correct play to do it with power if you're trying to maximize your output on a turn. That's the other thing about this deck is the combination and kind of the chemistry of having the choice of, do I want to use energy versus power? Do I want to deramp? Do I want to kind of have an explosive turn? You have all of those at your fingertips, but the Guerrilla Warfare is, again, just very efficient as far as the resources spent to what you get.
All right, well, I do want to yap about this deck a little bit longer, but you know what's even better than talking about Teemo? It's watching Teemo in the feature match area. Round 3 of Regional Qualifier Atlanta is off to quite the start. And always exciting on day 1 to see so many different decks. Let's have a look then. Teemo versus Rumble, a matchup we've seen so many times, Chalmer. Very well practiced on this one.
Tale is old as time. I'm sure the audience is totally sick of this Yordle on Yordle violence. That's all we get on the broadcast. No, I think that this is going to be very fun. I'm also very excited to see how the Rumble player in particular navigates around these hidden cards. Hidden is an interesting mechanic because you can get a lot of value by using the power costs to substitute in these sometimes very powerful effects. But in many decks, you only run 1 or 2 hidden cards, and the player across the table kind of knows what to expect. When you have all of these options as the Teemo player, it becomes that much harder to play around certain things.
Yeah, so many things I was thinking about, like there's BMO, the other Teemo in the champ zone, the Chaos one, and there's 3 Mind Teemos in the main, so like don't want that effect in your champion zone or like on demand, but you do want a lot of it. Teemo can return Teemos to his hand. Like there's a lot going on, but we'll find out by watching the players play, shall we? As runes get channeled there for Vannan, our Rumble player on the left. Pass it on back. And what do you got there? Channel an extra rune, see what's happening, and it's going to be Warcamp versus Ravenbloom Conservatory, so saving the Bandle Tree for a rainy day, perhaps.
All right, we're just going to see that Teemo, a.k.a. the BMO here, the Chaos-oriented one, come from the champion zone. This is why you run this one, because, one, you kind of want the mind versions of the Teemo to be a surprise, so you don't want that information that it returns from hand, but also this is just a guaranteed turn 1 play every time for the Teemo player.
Yeah, you also have to hide from hand, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
So you cannot hide from the champion zone, which is kind of what you're talking about there with the surprise factor. I actually really like Teemo just as a early drop in general. Aurelia actually, sorry, not Aurelia, Yasuo from Lille, the best of deck there, was also playing this as a pretty flexible unit, and just having a unit here when Rumble didn't make a play on turn 1. Even though you're going second, pretty easy to go ahead and move into the Conservatory. Maybe get a draw out of it. That's a good amount of spells as you're defending, and the fun has already begun. Pay an energy thanks to Teemo's Legend ability and hide a card at the battlefield. And now we get to play the guessing game.
Yeah, you mentioned the Conservatory. Not only is there a fair number of spells, but many of those spells also have the word hidden on them. So this is one of the reasons that I think this Teemo player is opting this over, say, the Candlelit, just because you're going to get more value by forcing them to come into you there and still get your hidden triggers and do everything else. Vannan here is opting instead to just send the Rumble over to the War Camp.
Yeah, doesn't want anything to do with that hidden card there. So both players have a point here. Should be 1-1 here in this game. Off to a good early start for both, but I do like that Rumble's like, you know what, I am avoiding you at all costs. I want to keep my Rumble and not deal with anything else and just say, hey, can you ever break this battlefield? Because that's fairest Forerunner right on time at the War Camp.
All right, so when you're playing Riftbound, there's one thing that you kind of want to consider, which is your macro game plan, how the game is going to develop, especially into the late game, and how you're going to close it out. Right now, our Teemo player, Fusilier, they kind of have the advantage because with the first score, if they just kind of dodge each other, they have the potential to win off the first hold point. The one thing working against them, however, is if Vannan does find a way to break through on that other side, the downside to Teemo decks traditionally is they have a hard time retaking fields. They're very good at holding, but they need to rely on cards like Watcher or almost like an offensive Rebuke if they want to retake a battlefield.
Yeah, and we did have a peek at the deck list. In the main, there is a single Rebuke here for our Teemo player. 3 purple Ezreal, so clearly happy to draw through a bunch of their deck. You can even do the kind of extra fun thing with Ezreal and pick up a Teemo and discard it if you don't need it anymore, which is kind of a little extra value, quote-unquote, you can get. But Sprite Skull is going to hit the bin with the Ezreal that's getting played. Does reinforce the battlefield in the south, and now draws 2 cards, which, as we've noted from Vegas, pretty fun stuff. As Edge of Night was the hidden card. Put it on the Ezreal. Go ahead and equip that. And then you know what the best thing about revealing a hidden card you can keep at the battlefield is, Charmer? You just put another hidden card there.
Put another one, absolutely. You still get that value is because Edge of Night, of course, is going to stick around, and now you can rehide something else. What I really like about developing this Ezreal as well is I did happen to notice, you know, speaking of the late game, Teemo already has a Watcher in hand, and the Ezreal also reduces accelerate costs, right? Those additional costs also matter. On the other side, it looks like I just saw a Singularity picked up, and we'll see what happens with that.
And from memory of these deck lists, that is also the single Singularity in Vannan's main. So not a bad one to find here. Ezreal not quite big enough. It is 3+2 for 5 might on the bottom side. And Teemo is still a lonely one because it wasn't played this turn. It's just been chilling in the Conservatory. And there is a hidden card there, so of course things to consider. But I know something Vannan doesn't know. That is a Consult the Past as a hidden card. So a very efficient draw spell, especially in a deck like Teemo, but not something that's going to help you against damage or combat at this stage.
Now, the nice thing about putting that Edge of Night on the Ezreal here is, with the exception of Singularity hitting both, you played around Falling Star pretty well. The Falling Star is not big enough to go 1-1 in both directions, so it either would need to take out the Ezreal and leave the Teemo or vice versa. But again, with Vannan also not knowing what is underneath, this is what I was talking about. In most decks, you kind of know what the hidden card is. This time around, is it another Edge of Night? Is it you know, a switcheroo planning for later. In this case, we do see that Falling Star I was just mentioning come out, though.
Yeah, nice little Falling Star. Just taking out the Ezreal, basically treating it as a 1-for-1. Happy to take out easy, push the Edge of Night off temporarily, and pass it on back. And I do appreciate Vannan representing the additional might that these mech units do have. Again, it's only on offense or defense, but that happens so often in Rumble that I do appreciate that the extra might is being effectively represented here, so Teemo doesn't worry too much when potentially running in there. But as you kind of pointed out, we are just splitting the field right now. So making mech off Production Surge there, another Rumble card. You kind of have to play, but it's not a bad one here. And into Noxus Hopeful, very efficient 4-might unit that is often played for only 2 energy that we see in a huge swath of Fury decks.
Yeah, Noxus Hopeful, I think, is going to be one of those staple cards that is not flashy, but sticks around for a very long time in the Riftbound meta, just because it is very efficient. Paying 2 to get 4 additional might is such a big play. Yes, it doesn't have the word mech, but it doesn't matter. Good might for value is good might for value every time.
All right, so here's that Consult I managed to catch. Going to play it here in reactions. Vannan gives the thumbs up, draws 2, and there's, again, more hidden cards. That's the whole theme of the decks. Wages of Pain. A card I sometimes forget you can hide, but that is also a card you can hide at a battlefield. And kind of at a standstill here, 3-2, because Teemo did break serve, I suppose, in this, this loose metaphor I'm using, but ahead on points, and we'll stay ahead if both players proverbially AFK from this game and just ride it out to 8. But I don't think that's going to happen, and Watcher is certainly going to mean that action is happening. So shrinking those 2 mechs, and going to maybe rumble on in is Fusilier.
Yeah, if this Watcher ends up being successful, and it should be because of the Edge of Night giving the additional might, this is going to, one, kind of break the point stalemate, but also, if they want to go all in, they could double hide here and say, you know, next turn, pick your poison, you know, guess accordingly. How do you think I was going to hide? What one did I want to defend better? Again, kind of the nightmare scenario for Vannan. Now, the one thing Vannan has going in their favor, however, is the presence of that Singularity. The thing that Teemo struggles with, besides just retaking, is also direct removal, because the hidden cards matter far less if you're just getting rid of the unit while avoiding combat. It kind of reduces the number of hidden cards that are impactful in those scenarios.
Yep, so good reminder, thanks Vannan. It is actually War Camp that was being represented by those die. So the shield that these mechs have, thanks to the Rumble Legend, is now being represented by the die. So Vannan not being that nice to his opponents, but at least trying to represent things as they go. So it is 9 on another number that I'm currently calculating. So it was
it should be 10 with 10 War Camp.
Oh, 10 total? Yeah.
Yeah. With the War Camp should be 10, because it's 7 plus the 2 from the Edge of Night, and then the War Camp.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. Yes, War Camp does work for both sides. So 10 for the Watcher total, 10 base for the 2 mechs on the other side, plus 2 for each of them, so up to 14, and minus 6 is 8. And if the math checks out, that should be 1,000 Tail Watcher winning this combat handily. It does mean 2 mechs will go to base as Forerunner hits the trash, but feels like a decent trade here, playing 1 card in your equipment to get a point and kick a lot of mechs out of that battlefield.
And also really important, it gets rid of the Fury version of Rumble, so that's also going to reduce some of the inherent bonuses that those mechs had. Yes, the Legend ability will still be factored in there, but anytime that you can slow down some of these, you're in a good spot. The other thing that it does is it makes more units that are targetable by some of the effects that are very common in these Teemo lists. For example, when we saw the deck list earlier, there was the one of Windsinger. Obviously, these 3-might mechs are small enough where those cards work, but they do not work on those larger units.
I appreciate Fusilier holding his cards at a relatively high in the camera, we can say, because that's one of the few ways I get to get a peek, and I do know what on the South Battlefield that card is. It is a Switcheroo, which feels pretty good in this situation with that Teemo just casually chilling at only 1 little might. In fact, the fun part about Switcheroo is that it will also confer the War Camp might, I believe, because that is the snapshot that happens when you look at how big the Watcher is. So this Beamo might look a little vulnerable, but it is scarier than you think.
Well, the Switcheroo has to target the same battlefield.
Boo.
So it's not like the mutation that we got to see earlier on the broadcast, which was fantastic. This is instead just going to say, okay, whatever is coming in, my Teemo is now that size. But
Also,
the nice thing in this scenario is because your Teemo is a 1, you're always getting maximum value out of your switcheroo.
That's true. And I would like to do a thing. Defend actually happens as well. This is the other nice thing about how hidden interacts. You do get a defend trigger when you're holding Ravenbloom Conservator, so it does get a stack deck out of the deal. And Switcheroo effectively going to act like a little hidden removal spell here. It wasn't a wages or anything like that, but going to basically say that my BMO is now bigger than your hopeful. As you mentioned, Teemo gets maximum value out of Switcheroo, and when it's only 1 unit crashing in, that's a combat Teemo wins easily. And now there's a Noxus Hopeful chilling for our Teemo player in the bottom battlefield.
Yeah, and I believe this is going to be answered by the Cleave, but it does force another card out of the hand. Vannan, if they wanted to instead just give up a unit, they could have, instead of sending the Hopeful, kind of baited the Switcheroo, the mech, and then come back in with the Hopeful over the top, because 4 would still be larger than the 3 that the Teemo became. But this is fine too. It also played that Stupefy just a cycle, so clearly okay with getting rid of some of these cards to make room.
It did want to lose the unit either, right? I think Cleave's Assault 3, if memory serves
Yes.
correctly. So would have been a trade, just with Cleave decides to commit a pretty low-cost card that also draws a card in order to keep presence at the battlefield. So all adds up there as Hopeful does win the exchange with Teemo. And now we have the 10 power walkout. I should know this. I am a Leona player. 10 power Thousand Tail Watcher. But unfortunately, when you have more than 1 unit, Warcamp gets a lot better. The math is easy when it's a single unit, although apparently I'm proving that that's not the case. So those are 3 mechs that are all 3 might. Well, that's a lot closer to 12 might total between those.
Absolutely. If they all come in, and it looks like that is what we're going to see, is Vannan grabs them in the fist and turns them sideways, my favorite action in the game. So that's going to be 12 might coming in. Looks like a passive priority over to say, you know, hey, what's that hidden card? What do you got?
I didn't know this one.
I also did not. This wages. So this is where Warcamp actually kind of comes back to haunt Fusilier, because the wages only puts 3 damage on it. Will make a more efficient trade here when the damage is distributed, but not enough to keep things on the side of the Teemo player completely.
Yeah, not a complete blowout, we can say. At least forces the total trade. But does mean that the Watcher is going to be felled. It looks like another Cleave going to be committed here. Wants to keep a mech around. Values pressuring those hold points here, does Vannan. So it was 4 points for Teemo there. It's 3. It was 3 for Rumble, but now going to be 4 after that conquer. So even keel, which feels good when you were the play that started behind on the point race. And Teemo recycled a bunch of different runes on that last turn to try and hide some cards and hold on to these battlefields. And the resources are looking to running a little low as Rumble continues to do the only thing Rumble really knows how, and that's commit mechs to the board/base as much as you want.
Yeah, unfortunately, the double assault is going to put Fusilier pretty far behind. As I said before, Teemo struggles with retakes, and we've already seen the Watcher committed. If Fusilier even has the units to commit to the board here, they're not going to be ones with Accelerate, and even if they were ones with Accelerate, we don't have the runes to play them. So ultimately, you're going to take at least 1 turn off. Vannan will jump not just ahead in the points, but also will be able to just reinforce even further next turn on these battlefields, and it's going to be a mountain to climb.
One of the things that Rumble's really good at doing is just putting a lot of might at battlefields, and it all adds up, especially when you're defending, thanks to the shield that Rumble grants all your mechs innately. Stack Deck and Ezreal are going to chew through a bunch of different cards here. Nocturne hits the bin, so didn't want that one. Again, only good when he can find it, and Stack Deck is a way to do it. Going to go ahead, recycle a rune, and get a Nocturne into play pretty close to for free. Costs the power, but feels pretty good on the whole. The bad thing, though, and Vannan doesn't know this, but I do, because, again, we got to see the deck list. Thousand Tail Watcher copies in the main Charmer. That is 1 for our Teemo player. So not an out, even if we get back to 7 or 8 runes to be able to play it. And again, another Stack Deck looking for answers. Finds another Edge of Night. Pretty good hidden card, but as you mentioned, can be tough to crack through these battlefields, and certainly not going to happen this turn.
No. Again, no way to ready these units, no form of Accelerate, anything like that. So going to be at least 1 turn behind, but also in the situation where Vannan will jump up to 6, will likely just reinforce to these battlefields, and then Fusilier will have to crack through at least 1 to prevent losing the game. But in doing so, they're going to have to expend a number of resources to get there, which leaves very few resources open to then protect it outside of, you know, hiding the additional card if you can get the job done there. Vannan looking to be in a pretty commanding spot in this first game of the series.
Yeah, grip full of cards there for Fusilier. And I did spot a Chaos Sivir as one of them, although Singularity going to make any well-laid plans get pretty quashed here, and I have a feeling that, yeah, we're going next.
Yeah.
Just shuffles through the graveyard, finds the Teemo, puts it back in the Chosen Champion zone and says, you know what? I've had enough. I'd like to play game number 2, please.
Absolutely. Interesting that that game was kind of decided by the singles, if you will, right? With the single Singularity, and when Teemo did jump ahead, it was off of that single copy of Thousand Tail Watcher. Vannan showing that Assault can still be a very good card, however, with the double Assault turn to take both locations. Very interested to see now what battlefields the players bring for Game 2. Specifically, will Fusilier decide to go with the Bandle City, right? Want to get those additional cards hidden? Or will that be a save for Game 3 when you're potentially going to have the 3 resources available?
Well, Fusilier knows he's on the play, so does go for Bandletree here in this game number 2. Minefield, kind of a curious one here. We kind of briefly mentioned the last bit of the text on the card with a lot of text in Rumble's Chosen Champion Zone, but finding cards to go in your trash, which isn't too bad, I suppose, as far as being able to replay mechs goes, although interestingly, does actually kind of work at Teemo too. I believe Teemo can shuffle through the trash to find cards.
Yeah, you've got the Guerrilla Warfare.
Yes. That I was thinking of.
There are some versions of Teemo that even when they are this kind of like Nocturne surprise all-in version, will either bring main deck copies or sometimes in the sideboard copies of Rasa. If you expect the game to go along, like I said, you struggle with retakes. So depending on what the game plan is here, and obviously we don't know what the players' sideboards are, but that could be something that would come in, and then you would inadvertently benefit from something like the Minefield.
I do honestly hope we get a Game 3, because the thing I wanted to mention, and that now is not as relevant because we've seen the battlefields for Game 2, is that the last battlefield for our Teemo player is Voidgate. And in the main, the only card that actually was affected by Voidgate was Wages of Pain. So my presumption is that there's more stuff in the sideboard to bring in for those later games. Something maybe like a Bellows Breath.
Yeah, it very well could be. The Void Gate is also, as weird as it sounds, very important when you're playing Wages, because 4 is such a critical threshold in the game of Riftbound when you've got those units like Kaisa Survivor that you need to get rid of. And if you're only running the Wages, then you kind of want to plan for that. But we do see the Teemo start again with Teemo from the Champ Zone, takes Bandle City and hides 2 cards. This is the Teemo special. This is exactly what I wanted to see. Now the question that Vannan has to ask is, you know, what are those 2 cards? When am I going to feel comfortable going in there?
Not this turn. Forecast are going to head straight to the top, so it's going to be a point apiece. Stack deck, using a little showdown window.
What's interesting as well, I was just wondering, on the side of Fusilier, what would you hide that you'd feel comfortable playing around potential removal? But maybe, possibly spotted that Vannan is on all blue runes. Those are all mind runes, which means you didn't even have to worry about cards like Falling Star, so that Teemo did not really need a lot of additional protection from removal.
It had a bit of a buffer, because I know the bottom-most hidden card is Edge of Night. I believe the other one is Consult, but if it was, I guess we'll play it now. Don't have to reveal the information on the first action window you got, which Fusilier did get to play that stack deck on the other turn, and flipping over, yep, there was Consult, did spot that just barely the edge of that art, and we'll go again. In fact, we might even do the same play we saw in the first game, where you flip the Edge of Night up, equip it, and then hide another card. But in this case, because it's Bandle City, you can hide 2 more cards.
Absolutely, and the cards picked up from that Consult, I believe, were a Nocturne as well as a stack deck. One of the things that I like about this new version of Teemo that is running the Ezreals is that, yes, it can feel bad when you draw these Nocturnes sometimes, but if you really just want to pitch them, if you don't want to pay the cost, Ezreal gives you that out, and it's a very efficient way to refill your hand with more hidden cards. But I think here, just wanting to play around potential removal, we're going to see the Nocturne go down and the Edge of Night on it, and that is going to require at least a Singularity or all of a Falling Star, and if you've got 2 hidden cards, chances are you've got a buff there as well. Yeah,
it's kind of interesting how this little Teemo works, because it is such an efficient early play, but, you know, the Might really doesn't stick around on Little Beemo. So wants to kind of reinforce a beefier unit to continue holding here with all these hidden cards. And I feel like if Teemo loses control of the Bandle Tree, it's a real bad time. So definitely want to hold on as much as you can. 2 points each, though, still, thanks to how the start worked out. But we're kind of in the same spot where we're just splitting points for a few turns.
Well,
and Teemo's ahead once again on the race.
The Fury runes were found on the side of Vannan. There is the Falling Star. I happen to notice there's also another Singularity there. So the question now becomes, what do I think those hidden cards are? Do I have the direct damage to go over it? There's also a Stupefy there as well. So if you wanted to do something like the Falling Star and then after seeing how the buffs are applied, then react with the Stupefy, that could be an option. A lot of intriguing plays here.
Singularity feels pretty safe here, and that seems to be the play Vannan is going to go for. I'll pick 2 targets. They'll both take 6. And Fusilier is going to look at the 2 hidden cards. And as a reminder, you don't want to lose control of the battlefield, because if you do, your hidden cards go away without any other intervention. Sprite's Calder at least going to put 1 more unit at the battlefield, so that will do the job of holding on. But the 3 Might Sprite is not as big as the 4 Might Rumble that is ready in Vannan's base.
Yeah, still waiting to see what the other card is, but given that those units are going away, have to assume that it's not another Edge of Night there. I think that was a good call by Vannan to say, I've already seen 1 Edge of Night. It's not likely to be another. This also is kind of telling in that this is potentially a switcheroo. So the question is Vannan going to call the bluff or not? Is going to send it in.
Just says, okay. Assault happens. Fusilier's like, can I use a thing? It is blue Teemo.
Okay, so here's my favorite interaction in any Teemo deck. You flip the blue Teemo. There's 1 hidden card, 2 hidden cards. Ezreal's a whiff. 3 hidden cards, 4 hidden cards. That's 4 damage onto the Rumble. So that's going to force a trade here, even with the Assault, I believe.
Yep, Cleave's going to say, I would like to keep my unit. Once again, kind of being the undoing of a lot of these situations here. And these efficient tricks we've seen since Origins, really, when Kai'Sa was around in these same domains. Going to serve Rumble well here, trying to win out this combat. So used all the hidden cards, at least didn't lose them for no value. That would have been quite the tragedy, but unfortunately is not going to get the trade that Teemo wants here. And again, when you don't get to hold on to your battlefield, especially your big signature one in Vandal Tree, it's sometimes a bad time, we can say.
Well, the important thing, though, is the additional might from the Teemo and the Sprite means that you should still trade completely. So you will have the opportunity to retake here. So yes, you lose control of it, but you don't have to worry about attacking into a controlled battlefield, because retaking, as opposed to walking into an empty one, is significantly harder. So ideally, I think Fusilier was hoping to hit another Nocturne or something else there, but that was still a very big hit with the blue Teemo to kind of ensure that you have at least 1 open battlefield that you can maybe contest later.
Yeah, for everyone that's just as slow as me, it turns out that 5+4, which is the amount of damage that that hidden Teemo did when it revealed all the hidden cards, that adds up to 9, which is more than the might that Rumble had. So all caught up now. Thank you, Chama, once again for saving me as always. And Stack Deck gonna fish through the top 3, find 1. And I'll put the other 2 on the bottom here. Didn't quite see what Fusilier grabbed, but some options there. I think I saw a Chaos Siver in hand as the Watcher is back again. Could be more of those from the board coming in. Again, only 1 in the main, but certainly in Game 2 there could be more available. See a Purple Ezreal, maybe filter through the hand, a Tide Turner, and suspiciously looked like a card sharp on the far left of the hand. But we'll just give Teemo a little bit of time to cook.
I'd be curious if that was the case. I thought it was a Fizz, which would make a lot of sense as well. Fizz is an incredibly powerful card when you have all of these cheap options that also have hidden on them, but even still, just using Fizz for something like a Wages is typically very powerful. Ezreal's going to come down, and we're going to see that Tide Turner go away, which I think makes sense at this stage of the game.
It's Chaos Siver as the answer there. I think Switcher, which we do know, because again, a bunch of different cards were revealed as well. And keep on playing threats here, and I think probably filtering through the deck here, because I did spy another Ezreal get drawn. That is going to get played as well.
All right.
Is hidden an additional cost? No, right? It's an alternate cost.
It is an alternate
cost.
Ezreal you are correct. You are so smart.
Sometimes. Only sometimes, Chama. But, you know, 3 might for 3 energy and a bunch of filtering here as a number of cards get drawn. Always feels good. Again, we saw a lot of Purple Ezreal back in the day. I guess it's not even that long ago. Vegas was only a few months ago. But pre-ban saw a lot of this. Still a very good card, as it turns out, as Vannan is going to awaken and continue to push forward here with Rumble.
It's actually worth noting that if both Ezreal survive till next turn, that Watcher can be played and accelerated because you can reduce 1 energy and then 1 power, so you can just pay the clean 7, not have to recycle anything, and get the job done. And that would open up, I think, a really good reconquer opportunity for Fusilier. But again, we're going to have to wait and see what Vannan does in response going into this next one. They're talking through some things now.
Yeah, I believe our players have called a judge, which, as a reminder, if you find yourself playing at an event, a Riftbound event, at pretty much any level, whether to a Nexus Night or here in a regional qualifier, if you're not sure, call a judge. They're there to help you. They're your friends. They want to help all of us get through our games nice and cleanly. And the person running the card puller has a sense of humor. That is not a card in this matchup, but that is very funny. I appreciate you.
This is their way of saying that the judges are there to help you, and their judgment is divine.
It's true. Thankfully, you don't just recycle a bunch of your permanents when that all happens. You just get to chill. So. Just asking a question. Not exactly sure what the players are chatting about, but that's all right. We'll let them resolve things.
Yeah, I think it was just something either on turn resolution or here at the start, because obviously the card was being drawn. I think that it might have either been something revealed. Yeah, does look like that was the case. So just gained a little bit of additional information, probably during channeling. Might have just been even a self-report. I'll firmly admit that I will call a judge on myself just as quickly because I just want everything to be on the up and up.
Makes sense. So, I think we should have updated point totals by now. I believe the score on the screen is correct, 3-2. But Vannan may be in for point number 4 on this hold. Don't quite recall where we were up to, but still pretty early on in this game. Kind of some early trades meant Teemo as has been the norm in this game so far from the Chosen Champion Zone, able to get on board quickly, hide some cards, and then Rumble done a good job of undoing all the hard work with Falling Star Singularity and a parade of mechs. So 7 runes to play with, 2 less now that we're going to play Falling Star, which is a very efficient answer to Ezreal. And this is the reason that everyone started putting 4 might units in their deck.
And this is exactly also why I said if those Ezreals survive to the next turn.
Not when.
That is a very big if. Vannan would have needed something extra spicy to not take the obvious shot there. Interesting choice, actually, seeing the results of that Fusilier decided to not use the final Chaos Rune to equip that Edge of Night to one of the Ezreals. Perhaps just wanting to make sure that they had it to pay for something like a Nocturne if it did come up in the future and was worried about how many were going to be channeled.
Could have been thinking about the Thousand Tail Watch line too. Sometimes the cool thing is also the dangerous thing. So instead, we'll move through. Obviously, gonna exhaust a couple runes, reawaken them, just considering all the options. I see blue Teemo, I saw a Guerrilla Warfare, and I see a player fishing through their trash.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a tell.
Yeah, it's typically something where you're saying, okay, they likely have a fizz. I also just want to point out the heads-up play by Vannan to pull the mech back from the minefield last turn because you want to play around something like Wages of Pain. You don't want to give away your units for free. Instead, we're going to have the Sivir Mercenary hit the table.
Another good unit with Accelerate. So there's already a rune recycled under that rune deck, I have to imagine, because it has to pay the power, of course, for this Chaos Sivir. This one is Accelerate. If you spent at least 2 power this turn, which, by the way, if you pay Sivir's power cost and accelerate her, does happen, gets +2 and ganking, which is pretty sweet, but just playing this as a regular 4-might unit and passing it on back. That's going to be 4-2 now in points as Vannan rumbles on over back to the Bandle Tree, wanting to hold that one down. And Forecaster can, of course, go back to the minefield and try and poke for an additional point. And all of a sudden, a 3-point lead would feel pretty comfy here in game number 2 in a series where you're already up 1 game.
Absolutely. I do like the inclusion of Sivir Mercenary in this Teemo list just because beyond needing it for those retakes, as I said, retaking with Teemo can be very difficult. It's also something where it's pretty easy to get those triggers with cards like Edge of Night, or if you've already got control of one battlefield, just paying the power cost as opposed to the energy purposefully so that you get that power cost paid, get her online to maybe take the other battlefield. But unfortunately for Fusilier, Ferris Forerunner has entered the fray. And with the point lead, this is going to be problematic because now at some point you're going to have to break through that kind of huge mechanical force that has been dropped on your Bandle Tree.
Yeah, the big bad, we can say, of the format really does feel like Ferris Forerunner at times, which is pretty impressive for a Spirit Forge rare that which is very threatening, making all those mechs. And we do know, again, Chaos has access to cards like Rebuke, which has been a very popular answer. Problem with Rebuke is it might be quite powerful, but it is temporary. And Fusilier does not have the point tempo to really do anything if Ferrous Forerunner is ejected for a single turn.
Yeah, the number of permanent answers is pretty slim. Again, we've seen the Watchers. We do not know what the sideboards are, but sometimes Watcher plus Bellows Breath is another good way to answer some of the units. But I think in those cases, you would potentially want to do it after you've kind of broken open the Ferrous Forerunner and revealed those baby bots. In this case, I think Rebuke might be worth it to just get it off the site because, again, at some point, you do need to just prevent the hold.
Vannan, oh, I really like this, considering actually, like, do I care that much about point number 5? Again, Riftbound, a game where you generally play in increments of 2 because that's typically how many points you score a turn, with there being only 2 battlefields. So it decides actually that effectively reinforcing the unit that he retreated earlier from the minefield is better than just grabbing point number 5. And I really like that play.
I like this play a lot because between your Legend and, of course, the Fury Rumble on the board, that's additional power, plus you get the static bonuses. And again, when you know that Teemo can struggle with retakes and you have the point lead, why not just reinforce one site and say, okay, eventually you've got to come in here and you got to throw everything you have at it.
Kind of some rough mills there from off the minefield. Singularity and a Guerrilla Warfare. And at least one of those you can buy back with Fizz. But feels bad to lose some pretty key cards. There's Mundo from the top rope, out of the sideboard and onto the minefield.
Yeah, so Minefield actually helping out Mundo in this case, which is hilarious. Mundo coming down, and that is going to be a lot of might. We're going to have Edge of Night go on it as well. So this Mundo, they're going to do the count now, is huge. If you're looking for the might total, the answer is all of the might.
Yep. You know, Mundo
does as he pleases.
In League of Legends, early on, Mundo, not the most robust unit. Takes a little while to scale up. But once the items are in, just tanking towers, throwing cleavers at you, winning the game by going push, 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 and that's exactly what's happened here on the minefield. Felt like Singularity and Falling Star lined up pretty well against Fusilier's units. Not the case of this one, which is what? That's 6 base plus 2, which is 8, and
then 13 more, so 21.
13 more. Yeah, all right. Yeah. Not in Vegas, but still hitting 21. Feels pretty good there for our teammate players. Vannan is going to awaken and kick on, is ahead in the point race. So even though Mundo is an exceptionally good unit holding down a single battlefield, basically on his own, that isn't going to be enough to win this game as it stands. Again, if players just take their hands off the game and let it tick up naturally, Rumble is ahead.
Yeah, I think really interesting line is at some point Fusilier is going to need to try to get that Mundo to go to the other location. The question will become, is there a way to give it ganking? Is there a way to, ride the wind? Did that come in from the board as well as part of like some Super Mundo combo? What are you going to do that doesn't telegraph? Because the problem is if that Mundo goes back to base, then Vannan could also, with the point lead, potentially just divert his own resources and kind of counterplay the Mundo, right? Vannan with the point lead and kind of the ability to dictate how the rest of this game is going to go is still ultimately forcing Fusilier to say, what is your answer first? And then do I have a way to stop it?
Also doesn't have forever. The other thing about Mundo, there's more text on that card. It's not just this amazing unit that gets bigger and bigger. You do have to recycle cards from your trash, which can be something good if the game is going ultra late. But in this case, that's just going to shrink Mundo, and that's really not what we're looking for here. Yep. 21 is a pretty nice might number. I want to keep it as high as possible. So obviously, we'll ebb and flow as cards move from hand to trash and so on and so forth. But there is a single Ride the Wind in Fusilier's list, at least in the main. I know that for a fact. It makes sense. It's a pretty good Fizz target you can have as a one-of if you ever find it, but that's a Rebuke. That's not a Ride the Wind. That Chaos card jumping right out to me, but not the one he may be looking for right now, as Vannan still considering his options in this game. Kind of looking at that battlefield in the north and going, what do I do? I had all these Falling Stars. I thought that was good enough.
Not likely to happen in this game, but I will also say, as a Teemo degenerate, one of my favorite things to do with Mundos when the games go really long is, as part of your recycling, if you recycle the Nocturnes that you had to bin earlier, you can know when you're going to guarantee hit Nocturnes off of something like a blue Teemo reveal or a defense. So there's a lot of really fun things if you're comfortable with keeping a mental note or kind of stacking your deck, but from the bottom up, if you will, there's some neat things that you can do. But I think this game will end long before that comes into play.
I don't think we're getting all the way there, but you should have seen the look I gave Chalmer when he started describing that. That sounds quite filthy, I can say. And watch is still in hand. Maybe the players have another question for the table judge. Vannan is that or deep in the tank. That's one of those two at this point here. Because we know that at this point, Fusilier is like, I did the thing. I put the giant window on the battlefield. I recycled a bunch of runes. I hoed.
I would guess, based on the divine judgment
back
in the bottom right corner.
And the judge I could see the player cam, yeah. And that lines up.
That's so funny that that's the go-to now.
It's great. I love that. Never change.
Never change.
Looks like maybe again, just seems like a little quick fix. Not one to speculate, am I? But it looks like it is fixed pretty swiftly as must be, a forecaster trigger. Yes, forecaster trigger was on there because the production surge pushed out a mech, and forecaster says whenever you play a mech, including itself and of course your other mech, you do get a vision trigger. You can look at the top and maybe recycle it if you don't like where it is, but if you like it, leave it there. You'll draw it soon. And maybe right now if you stupefy. So -1 might on the Mountain of Mundo. Yep, chipping away. Definitely not just drawing a card and trying to get deeper into the deck and find a different answer.
I mean, I think it's a pretty good indicator when they don't even put the -might on the Mundo because they know it's just cycling to draw a card.
Production Surge does draw a card as well. Unfortunately, it doesn't stack in the way that you get the Vision trigger first because you obviously have to resolve the Surge completely. So that would be really nice for Rumble, but still works out pretty nicely. Make a mech draw a card, and in this case, also look at the top as well thanks to Forecaster. Pretty innocuous. Little two-drop that really only this deck plays, but if you're going to have to play mechs because Rumble's the mech guy, makes sense to play that one.
One of the things that I think could be scary here for Fusilier is we've seen Vannan's deck list. We know that there's a large number of just big blue mechs that have not been seen yet. I mean, even the vanilla, I was a one of, but even the vanilla, like you pay 7 and you get an 8 mech, would...
Literally what it's called.
I am aware. Would be enough to start, believe it or not, rivaling that Mundo because there's already a healthy number of might on the board. But we do see Vannan pull everything back, and this actually might open up a window now for Fusilier to take advantage of maybe relocating the Sivir because, again, if you recycle 2 runes, spend 2 power. Yes, it actually doesn't have to be recycling. You are correct. Spend 2 power. You don't just get the might, but you also get that fun ganking keyword.
Certainly do. Hidden card still at Mundo's battlefield. I also just like this play in general from Vannan, saying, you know what? I don't know exactly what's going on there, but I roughly know, what your domains can do. I don't want this Mundo to face check all of my mechs because he's much bigger than them somehow, even though I have all these might stacking abilities thanks to my legend. So just backing off and saying, you know what? Let's get a bigger bot army. Let's figure it out. And try and take the Mundo as he slowly whittles away. We saw 3 cards being recycled. I would call it an ambitious but exciting recycle from Fusilier. It was Ezreal, Singularity. So if you do get back to the bottom of the deck, you got some nice cards waiting for you, but not sure we're going to get there. Although you never know. Games can drag out sometimes. At 5 points to fall here. Teemo catching up, but not quite back to parity.
I think that also makes sense just from the standpoint of if you've got Fizz in your list, you want to make sure that you're bottoming the things that are not reducing your options, right? So in this case, we're also going to see a Nocturne join that minefield. Just a little bit of reinforce going on there. 1
power for everyone keeping it home.
Oh, I was wondering if we were going to see this. So Guerrilla Warfare, this is very interesting because you're going to get some hidden cards back and you can hide for free. The drawback, however, is you're making your Mundo smaller because these come from the bin.
Certainly do. And obviously, hidden is a pretty nice way to spend additional power, which would give the Sivir ganking. Fusilier only needs to find 1 more way to spend a power in order to do that. Oh, Guerrilla Warfare spins well. Never mind. We just figured it out. +2 in ganking, already there.
Yeah, I was just going to say the play of the Nocturne, that's 1 power.
Yep.
And then obviously the Warfare is the other. So Sivir does get to go over. And then now, because you've played the Warfare, you've got 2 additional hidden cards that you can choose to play here. I like that the Tide Turner was one that was picked up because depending on the order here, you could do some fun switcheroo things. The blue Teemo, again, could potentially find more Nocturnes. Who knows how deep into the deck Fusilier is this late in the game.
Also fully forgot, I'll admit, that it was Bandle City. We talked about it so much in the early stage of the game. You put 2 hidden cards in, and I was like, why isn't a judgment called? It's because you are allowed to do that at the Bandle Tree.
We forgot that was a Bandle Tree after it hit the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
Rumble had all the mechs sitting in the tree.
Big for S4, and I'm blocking the text there. Couldn't read it. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have a count and a peek through the trash. I think that's a very diligent thing to be doing at this juncture.
Yep. You want to see exactly how big the Mundo is, but yeah, that tree was covered up for a while. You had a lot of robots there.
We need bigger battlefields in the feature match area.
I see Rumble sitting in a tree, MECHING.
Certainly
a choice.
certainly the thing Rumble wants to do. I know, I did like it. It was tough for me to find a way to approve that joke.
Oh.
As a Thousand Tail Watcher on both sides of the table. Not a mech, but still a very good unit.
Absolutely. No Bellows Breath to follow it up, but again, this -3 might across the board seems pretty good here. Again, the question is going to be, how does Fusilier navigate this with the 3 hidden cards below? I was just about to say, also like an idea where Vannan kind of slow rolls some of these swings in, because the Sivir down to 1 might here. It's going to force at least 1 reveal. Going to go with the Teemo this time.
It's 25 might total.
There's 1. Stack deck is a whiff. Nocturne, hey! It's not a hidden card, but it's still +4 might.
Chalmers never been more excited to see it.
There's another one. Now this is...
One more? One more!
Yes! So you get the Nocturne, and you get to deal 3 direct damage to the mech. This is huge. Now, the other thing about the blue Teemo that I think sometimes people forget, it triggers on defense as well. So because Vannan did slow roll this in, if they come in again, that blue Teemo will trigger a second time. It's not just on the reveal.
You know who didn't know that? Me.
This is why I mentioned it.
I appreciate it. You know who may not also know that? Because Teemo is not that popular a deck. Vannan. But I'll give Vannan credit. He's been very thorough, I will say, in approaching this game. So I imagine double-checking that text. In fact, you know what? Doesn't matter, because Teemo was the unit taken out in the exchange.
And I think that was a very heads-up. Yeah.
I saw a 3, and I thought the mech was getting taken out by Hextech.
You know what? I forgot as well because they didn't put the die on it.
Sad.
I am a Teemo degenerate, not a Rumble degenerate. That's true. So I forget about the Assault.
Assault 1, pretty good. Thank you, Rumble Hot-Headed, which is still in play this game. So Nocturne going to be holding down the Bandle Tree, very normal. As Fusilier considering options, but again, mostly just looking at hidden cards because Vannan is continuing the Assault. I said it was 25 base might on Vannan's side before that mech went away. That is true, so that's 22 base plus Assault equals X, where X is the number of mechs. And as a reminder, Thousand Tail Watcher, not a mech, so that's +4. 27 might, just chilling on that side of the board that you can distribute in a number of different ways. So 4 to contend with there, and maybe that hidden card depending on what it is. So considering things like Edge of Night, nope, just decides to run 1 in. Oh, it's 4, of course, because it's Assault, and this time the die comes out.
Yes.
It's not for his opponent, it's for us.
It is for us.
Teemo!
Hey, double blue Teemo.
Now we can cheer for 4 hidden cards. 1,
2,
3.
Oh! Everything's coming up, Millhouse. We got 4 damage done correctly this time around. And this is exactly why I love this deck, because when it works, there is no better feeling when you hit those Nocturnes, when you get the successful defenses with the blue Teemo, and now Vannan is slowly losing some of that inherent might you were talking about. And if the goal was at some point to also go over top of the Mundo on the other side because you want to take advantage of the Watcher, you have to make a decision. So I like this, saying, all right, enough.
I've had enough
messing around. 6 is +1, so 7 is more than you can reveal.
Yeah, and that's 4 damage. Still 4 hidden cards revealed once again. The Chaos Ezreal, the only one among them that wasn't, and that is going to mean the Forerunner will go away. Does make 2 mechs, of course, which in Rumble is particularly good, and it was already a very good baseline. But you do at least get to trade away with some of the units, and I think at this point, Fusilier knows that like I have to contend with these mechs. Like we are going to get in combat. I can't avoid it forever. So at least chipping away feels pretty good.
That Teemo strategist did work.
Yes.
Now, the other interesting thing is, because Vannan decided to go into the Bandle Tree first, all of those things resolving go to the bin, so Mundo has been slowly creeping back up on the other side.
Reveal Recycle? Is it recycle
Well,
off?
no, but when the Teemo units
yes.
die, right? So
Yes.
the cards that are being played from over there, or when they die, are slowly making that Mundo go back up.
That's true. Ticking back up. It's 10 extra on top of the 8 that's already there. So that's 18 for everyone playing at home. Forecaster, though, going to the bottom side and going to take a point away from that Vandal tree. It's 6-5 now in points, but Fusilier going to hold back up to 6. And this game is getting awfully close all of a sudden,
Yes,
Sharma.
I thought this was firmly in Vannan's control, but after a very impressive defense off the back of that double Teemo strategist last turn, the resources that had mounted up on Vannan's side, they're still formidable, but they're not nearly what they were before. You did pop the one Ferris Forerunner, so you don't have to worry about kind of the lingering might. You've already seen the Thousand Tail Watcher used. Again, possible that they run more than one, but you feel pretty good that you got through one of the really bad on-play effects if you're on the side of Fusilier. So again, we haven't seen that ride the wind yet either, and Fusilier has probably seen the majority of the deck between reveals and everything else, so maybe knows where it is.
That's true, actually. You do get to see a lot of your deck playing this card. Playing this deck, excuse me. I see a Thousand Tail Watcher in hand as well, but not a lot to have to contend with. Nocturne does have ganking, by the way.
Yep.
So we're going to take a quick trip over to the Vandal Tree. I almost said Vandal City. It's not Vandal City. It's Vandal Tree. So you cannot take Nocturne down to the Vandal City.
In your defense, that tree is in the city limits.
That is true. It is monitored by the local governance as 2 cards get hidden once again. And we're just saying, you know what? I feel pretty good here. I'm going to try and hold for this win because I'm at 7 points.
Yeah, so before when I was saying that Teemo can struggle with retakes, one of the ways that it does it outside of Thousand Tail or the Sivir is through these Nocturnes with ganking. So if you get a Nocturne or, heaven forbid, 2 or 3 revealed on one location, they can then hop over to the other one like as a surprise. And very often, because they're revealed through the course of a turn, means your opponent doesn't have a way to answer them immediately. So a lot of times it is kind of a free conquer like we just saw from Fusilier. And this is, I think, a good answer from Vannan coming.
Another unit. Hold on to those cards. Fusilier going to look at both of them, but Falling Star is targeting that Nocturne down at the Vandal Tree. And one of these cards has to do something, I imagine.
I was just going to say, it's interesting to navigate because if any one of them is a unit, you only have to show one to keep control.
Yep.
Because you could have both the Tie Turner or Sprite's Call, or if it was something like an Edge of Night or whatever, again, you would only have to reveal one. The only time where you might consider revealing 2 is if you also had like Consult the Past, because we actually have energy available for the first time in a long time on Fusilier's side, so trying to find answers also could make sense. We're going to have the attack, though.
Yeah, 4 into 2. As you noted, as cards go to the trash, Mundo is getting bigger, so it's harder to crack. A Wage is a pain. Pretty good here, as you pointed out. Kind of the reason why Void Gate might be one of the battlefields that Fusilier has access to. Actually, it does hit the Mac to get the trade, so no points being gained. More cards to the trash, gold getting gained as well. So Mundo getting more and more formidable in this game. But still a decent amount of might on the other side. It is 11 plus 3, that is 14 plus the 2 assault thanks to Robo Hot-Headed. So 16 might available, but I can tell you just at a glance, Mundo is already bigger than that.
Yes. Mundo has all the might.
Yes, I don't even have to. I don't know if I'm doing the math. I just know it's bigger. And the question is how much bigger? Because there's Smokescreen from -4. So I guess now I'll begrudgingly do the math. It is 6, 12, 18 for Mundo plus 3. 21. We found our way back.
We found a way back. So I will say this. You mentioned the Void Gate and why that might be the battlefield. I think that this game might be a great way to showcase to a new Riftbound player why breakpoints are so important in this game, and understanding when you're playing the game what units are important to people and then what things deal with them at different thresholds, right? So 3 is an important one for a number of reasons because you have cards like the Purple Ezreal, but 4 is, in my opinion, like the marquee breakpoint for a lot of your direct damage removal and or even might on your own units to kind of target what your opponent is doing.
This is 16 into 21. I'm glad I did the math earlier because I was not going to be able to do it any quicker. So Smokescreen is going to make it -4 more. That is only 20 though. And again, Mundo can get bigger at a pretty quick speed. So -4. All right, I'll take my my 1 extra might I have over you right now.
So the interesting thing is in the hand of Fusilier, we do see the Rebuke. And Rebuke, I actually...
That's the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually think that this will result in the game because with no way to go over the top of all of that with that Watcher going away.
Is +8 might for 2 energy good? Because that's effectively what that rebuke was, right?
Well, we also saw you showed the wages as well, but because the wages also would have got rid of a mic and would have went so.
Still had all these.
Yeah, it had all these things, but yes. 2 energy, 2 power, +8 might seems pretty good.
Remove 7 off the battlefield, put 1 in the trash, make Mundo bigger, wages for +1, so plenty available then. I think showcasing a really cool interaction on why Mundo is such an exciting card from this deck's sideboard. Again, this is a deck that is constantly shuffling cards through different zones. And Mundo can just kind of go up and down and stay very, very big as the game goes on. But we have something very exciting, Tom. We have a Game 3 between Rumble and Teemo to kick off round 3 here of Regional Qualifier Atlanta. 12 minutes left in the round. Void Gate on the bottom and Power Nexus, the final battlefield for Rumble.
Yeah, I'm very excited for a number of reasons. First of all, we get to see these Yordles in action. Second, both decks have had their time to shine so far in the series. We got to see the power of just flooding might on the mech side. We got to see the power of the cool hidden interactions and Nocturne combo on the Teemo side. But as we go into this third game, we also get to see potentially the Void Gate Tech Matter. I love Power Nexus and Rumble, and it makes me wonder if maybe there's time warps in the sideboard and you're trying to set up a sneaky win from 6 to 8 as like a switchboard.
I mean, again, I think in this matchup especially, holding one side felt, relatively straightforward. Holding both for either player has felt really difficult in this matchup. So I do think finding a way to get some extra points with something like a Time Warp Nexus combo, if that is what Vannan has available, feels pretty good here. And so does getting on board early as Rumble. Forecaster into Rumble hot-headed, and everyone's sent over to the battlefield. It's a point already.
Yeah, and I like this heads-up play from Vannan because the jump onto the Power Nexus also means that at some point Teemo needs to break that, not just because Vannan was first on the board, which you already normally have to kind of break that cycle, but you really have to do it sooner because of the threatening the additional point.
Yeah, 1 apiece, but behind on the race, as we've noted a few times. Vannan in the lead, 2-1 in points. I will say, the more I watch this matchup, the more I understand the appeal of having a 2 energy unit that doesn't cost power in your chosen champion zone. That is really, really powerful for your early game consistency. And, again, it looks a little innocuous, this 1 might unit you have access to, but that's enough to conquer. In fact, 0 is enough to conquer, as we learn in Unleashed.
That's right.
Crab coming soon.
Just having something that will always be available is traditionally great. But now we see the Gem Jammer come down.
That is extremely hype. Gives ganking is a mech. We actually see Gem Jammer in, non-mech Fury decks from time to time.
We do have a hidden card, though. If this is a switcheroo, this could be a blowout for Fusilier. If not, it also could be disastrous. I'm going to see 2 runes recycled, so I think this might be just a switcheroo from hand.
Not the one you maybe have expected, and that is bad news for Vannan. Again, getting the maximum value out of switcheroo as the 1 might Teemo. Kind of a fun little twist there, as Fusilier does have the combat trick and says, I want to hold on to my points and the battlefield because, as you've noted a few times in this matchup, very tough to retake, because I see that Fizz finally poking around. I see a blue Teemo as well.
I also think that's a Consult the Past. I was trying to see what else we got there. So we have the Nocturne coming down, just getting some additional power there in the base. Again, I like this line of not reinforcing because you want to maybe have the option to retake if they do go over the top. But also if you've got a face-down switcheroo, like maybe you played the one from hand, made them think, okay, they don't have it, and this could be a bait or a draw-in. Very excited to see this. And hey, there's the big mech that we talked about from before.
Not the biggest, but still pretty big. That is Breakneck Mech, which does give your mechs ganking. So Rumble Hot-Headed is going to do the same thing that happened last time and see if there's a switcheroo. Your mechs have Deflect and ganking. That is a lot of text. And here is Hidden Teemo once again. Found a Nocturne.
I don't know if the mic picks it up, but I was clapping. Love finding these Nocturnes. Nothing makes me more excited. And then we got a Sprite's Call, a Consult, and a Switcheroo. So 3 damage plus a Nocturne out of this Teemo Strategist reveal.
That is enough for the 2 might Teemo to trade with this Rumble, despite being 5 might, assaulting in from the other side of the battlefield thanks to ganking. And again, hidden cards are getting... your hidden card has already been used. You don't mind losing control of this battlefield. So even though it is going to be a trade at the end of the day... No. Yes, okay, it is. I was like, surely I did the math right this time.
No, it will be a trade, but again, heads up play by Fusilier to play that Nocturne to the base, understanding that there's no way because of the mechs on the other side, and they all have ganking now, that you're going to defend it. But you get that additional power out of it is so big, because now you go into this with 8 might available to attempt those retakes. As I said before, retaking can be very difficult for Teemo, and this gave Fusilier the best option to do so.
I'm kind of curious to see Gem Jammer get ganked over there. Again, I respect wanting to hold on to some potential hold points, but I guess it's tough because Breakneck Mech is also an 8, so if 2 Nocturnes come rolling over, they can also trade into your Breakneck Mech, but kind of leaving your Gem Jammer out to dry here with 2 Nocturnes just chilling in the base and Awakened, as it looks like we do have yet another bit of Divine Judgment hitting the feature match area. Just a little cheeky judge call. Again, players wanting to make sure things are all going as they should be.
Now the Gem Jammer, as you had pointed out, is kind of hung out to dry. Could also be targetable by something like a Wages, if that is drawn, and then you don't even have to worry about the combat. Vannan has everything exhausted, no energy available, so you don't have to play around anything anyway if you do want to walk the Nocturnes in, but...
I figured it out, hopefully. He just wanted the point.
Yeah.
I forgot that you lost 2 competitors. Both Rumble and it's lost to Teemo. Not something that, maybe happens in the game every now and then, at least in Riftbound, with how the might totals are presented, but makes sense, again, using that very powerful passive that Breakneck Mech has, which kind of adds up to why it's so expensive. 8 energy and 2 mind power to get that on the board, but a cost Rumble is happy to pay to get those points, get Vannan up to 4, and get the game moving in the right direction for the Rumble player, who I don't know if either of these players started with a bye, but both are undefeated here in round 3, and that is only going to be true for one of them at the end of this game.
Yeah, it's a little sad that one of the Yordles is going to take a loss.
It has to happen, I'm sorry. I think it's probably happened a few times already in the first few rounds of the
I mean, yeah, but...
Not these 2 specific players.
Yeah, exactly. These players. Like I said before, it's the tale as old as time, the meta-defining. You're tired of seeing it on the broadcast, Yordle on Yordle violence.
Right, well, a little chit-chat happens here. Players just working it out. I think maybe just making sure the point totals are correct, but I believe they are. 4 and 2. Again, we'll let the players sort things out, and the judges, of course, our wonderful judging staff that works not just the regional qualifier. There are events happening all weekend long. No matter if it's a sealed side event or the RQ, the main event, as it were. Judges are there to help you out and make sure your questions are answered. Games are going nice and smoothly. So how do you think this game's lining up if Fusilier just looking at the board? Because not that many runes, the 2 Nocturnes look pretty good, but Breakneck Mech seems like a tough one to crack. And as we've noted, maybe ad nauseum at this point, holding, good for Teemo. Taking, not so easy.
This is an interesting spot because in order to get through the Breakneck Mech, you're going to need one of your cheap energy options because you're all the way down, to 3 runes because you've been recycling heavily. Fusilier is going to need something like a Rebuke or maybe an offensive switcheroo, something like that, in order to deal with the big units, but also still needs to send enough to go over top of the other unit as well. You can't bank on getting to a Watcher anytime soon, again, because you're short on runes. The option for Sivir exists, but that's still only +6. Yes, you could maybe go over the top, but then you're going to be very light on units after the fact. You really want something that will allow you to deal with it as a spell as opposed to a unit, if at all possible. So again, I would be leaning toward, hoping to find ideally an offensive switcheroo, just so that you get rid of it completely as opposed to just temporarily back to hand with a Rebuke.
Yeah, again, you don't have to, as we noted, you don't have to hide the hidden cards to play them. You can just play them. They have regular costs as well. Looks like players have rewound a little, I think just to show maybe the situation they're asking about here. But we do know that Teemo was revealed, did show 3 hidden cards and a Nocturne. In fact, the Nocturne that's down there in the base among them. So that is 3 damage plus the 3 might there.
Void Gate. So that must be the discussion. They might be considering the additional damage, but that still shouldn't matter because the Rumble
still gives itself assault.
Should give itself assault, so it should have been a 5 total with 4 damage.
Yep. I did not think when I was looking through the deck list that Void Gate worked on anything other than Wages of Pain, but I did forget about
spells and abilities.
All right, so we trade regardless. Not sure that changed. I don't think that changed anything regardless, but it's fine. Players just
No,
want
I
to make
think-
sure we're in the spot we're in.
I think that they were just trying to, again, work through it. You just want to make sure you're on the up and up.
And there are the runes.
And they're going to be getting a time extension. So, yes, it looks like there's only 2 minutes left, but because of the judge call, it's actually much longer. And as we dive back into this, we will hopefully see our thrilling conclusion of what I think has been a very entertaining matchup here. I'm, again, biased. Was very excited to see the Teemo, but Rumble has really shown a lot to me as well.
I have learnt a lot about Teemo in just this series alone, so it's a treat. In fact, I'm getting a little concerned because that Beamo is looking very cute, and I don't own one. And perhaps that's something that can be fixed in between rounds. Edge of Night, though, going to get deployed for, again, don't have to play hidden costs for the regular price of 3 energy and a power to equip. Don't get the free equip unless you flip it face up, so Nocturnes are riding on in. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way, Charmer. Don't have a switcheroo, just going to get in there and try and deal the damage. But Shield is going to make these mechs a little bit bigger, so that is going to be 11 total might, if I can do the math, which I certainly hope I can at this juncture.
Yeah, and I believe it's still only 10 on the other side, so unless there's something from hand, I wonder, I was going to say, if this is just to get rid of the breakneck mechs, deciding that the ganking is too much. There's no way I'll be able to get control back of this. Now, the one downside to the strategy is Vannan still gets the double hold, jumps up to 6. You don't have a lot of accelerate in your deck for the low costs. Gonna maybe bank on something like a wages to prevent one of these. And the breakneck is probably gonna seal it, actually.
I mean, even if Vannan wanted to deploy mechs to bases, you know, just set up for a potential double conquer, kind of let Fusilier come in. I think given where we are, given that, you know, seeing Watcher is likely the only real accelerate unit, there's no Nocturnes jumping out right now. There's no window actually to play a stack deck to even find one. With how this played out, so Vannan is going to reinforce, pass back, and ask, can you break both of these battlefields? Because if you can't, I'm going to win. And I do see a wages, so there is one way to deal with the Gem Jammer. But, with ganking, it actually doesn't work.
That's why I said I think that the breakneck is just going to seal it. Specifically, if Fusilier had like 1 or 2 more energy, I would have liked Vannan to still put the mech in the base, because you didn't want to run into a situation where the Chaos version of Sivir was be able to be played with an offensive switcheroo. Like, that would be the only way you'd lose the game. But in this situation, yeah, I was going to say there's just no way that you're going to be able to stop it.
And Rumble moving to 3-0. Vannan undefeated still here in the first 3 rounds of RQ Atlanta. A fascinating look at Yordle v Yordle, but the one with the giant mech robot wins, which I think, given the prevalence of Ferris Forerunner over the weekend, does kind of like, that adds up to me.
Yeah, that adds up. It's a little sad for me as the Teemo degenerate, but I'm very happy to see this match on the broadcast. I think that it was very entertaining. It also, I think, showcases what both decks do well.
Yep.
And it also, I will admit, as somebody who's played a lot of Teemo, traditionally Kai'Sa is your bad matchup. So like that combination of Fury and Mind together, because of the direct damage and the accelerate, it does mean that when you fall behind, you're kind of permanently behind.
Yep.
Rumble still in those same domains, so you kind of see the same thing. It is ultimately kind of a bad matchup for Teemo, but that game 2, if you're somebody at home and you're like, hey, I kind of want to play the hidden Teemo, but I don't know what it's all about, that game 2, I think, showcases exactly what the deck is capable of.
You can kind of see as well, like, Teemo does have to use a lot of resources in order to, you know, hide all these cards. There's a lot of power costs associated with this deck and how it's built. And at some point, I think it was like, must have been at least 8 runes to like 2. Like,
yeah.
Fusilier just ran out of resources, ran out of ways to really keep deploying threats to the board, and Rumble is just very good at consistently, you know, getting ahead and trying to stay ahead, right? I think it is a deck that looks, you know, simple on paper, and sometimes it is, right? You're just making a lot of might is kind of your baseline thing, but a lot of play there, especially with a card like Breakneck Mech, all like creating a lot of forks in those games where it's like, actually, I'm kind of donezo. Like, it's really hard to navigate these battlefields because there's all this might protecting it. I can't deal with the other one because you're still going to gank over. So very well navigated by Vannan to just say, you know what, I know what my deck does. If I get to 6 points with this mech, very easy for me to close out the game. And Teemo didn't have anything anyway, but if you know, the game was a little closer, I think Vannan did a very good job of getting to that end game in the final one.